We are back in the booth. The deer is still running. I've noticed people with this star often have this look in their eyes like they're scanning the horizon.
That is the hallmark of Mrigashirsha. If this nakshatra is prominent, say the moon or ascendant is placed here, the mind is constantly roaming.
Roaming.
The texts describe the nature as fickle or whimsical. They're like that deer, always alert, ears twitching. Is there danger? Is the grass greener over there?
It feels like a permanent state of curiosity, but
Right.
does it manifest differently depending on whether they're in the Taurus side or the Gemini side?
Oh, absolutely. And we must differentiate the padas, or, the quarters here.
Right.
The first two padas fall in Taurus.
Okay.
Here, the search is grounded in Venusian energy. It's material, artistic, perhaps searching for beauty or comfort. But then we cross into padas 3 and 4 and we enter Gemini.
And Mercury takes over.
Exactly. Here, Mercury takes over. The search becomes intellectual. They become the writers, the poets, the satirists. They're searching for information and mental stimulation.
So it's from seeking comfort to seeking truth.
Or seeking an argument. Because Mars ruling a Gemini sector can create a really sharp, argumentative intellect.
Right.
And, there is a specific mythological symbol we need to mention here regarding relationships. While the deer is the main symbol, the sexual animal associated with this nakshatra is the female serpent.
A snake. That feels very different from a deer.
It adds a layer of complexity. The serpent brings a seductive, hypnotic quality. It suggests that beneath the innocent, deer-like exterior, there's a complex, perhaps even suspicious nature.
Right.
In relationships, this can manifest as suspicion or a wandering eye. The search doesn't necessarily stop just because they found a partner, and the partners of these natives, well, they often become more attached to them than they are to the partners.
That reminds me of the story of the golden deer in the Ramayana. It was an illusion, wasn't it?
It was, exactly.
Yeah.
Sita was enchanted by a magical deer, which was actually a demon in disguise, and sent Rama to catch it. This is the great trap of Mrigashirsha.
Chasing mirages.
Chasing mirages. Chasing the golden deer of the perfect job, the perfect partner, the perfect experience. It can lead to a life of chasing these temporary satisfactions that, just turn into illusions.
So the healing path is to stop chasing.
Well, the integration lies in realizing where the true soma is. The sources tell us that the nectar is not out there, and there's an interesting medical point here. This nakshatra rules the eyes and eyebrows.
Okay.
These people often strain their eyes metaphorically and literally by looking too hard at the external world. The lesson is to turn the search inward. When the searcher becomes the seeker of spiritual truth, that Mars energy becomes the fuel for enlightenment rather than just restlessness.
From a tourist in life to a pilgrim.
Well put. They must learn that the Prītana Śakti, the power of fulfillment, it comes from weaving their own life tapestry, not from hunting for it in the forest.
A beautiful thought to finish on. The cup is empty, but the search for meaning continues. Hopefully a bit more inward now.
Indeed. Until next time.
Hold on, don't pack up just yet. We just gave our listeners the espresso shot version of this star, but I think we need to pour a larger cup and sit with this.
Okay.
We really just skimmed the surface of that intro, and there is so much nuance in Mrigashirsha that we need to unpack. We're diving into the fifth nakshatra, and honestly, the golden deer archetype feels like the most relatable story for the modern world.
I agree. It is arguably the most modern of the nakshatras because it deals with dissatisfaction. And to really get it, we should go back to the name itself. You mentioned it literally means deer's head.
Right. Rhea and Shirsha.
Correct. But muga isn't just a noun for an animal. In the ancient Sanskrit roots, it implies to hunt or to investigate. It's a verb as much as it is a noun.
Oh, okay.
So we're looking at the searching head or the investigating mind. The ancient seers looked at the constellation Orion, specifically the stars that form the head of the hunter, and they saw this restless energy.
It's interesting you say restless. When I visualize a deer, specifically an antelope in the wild, it's never still. It's beautiful, sure, but it's twitchy.
Exactly. It's the most hyper-vigilant creature in the forest. Think about the physiology of a deer. It takes a bite of grass, looks up, scans the horizon, sniffs the wind, moves 3 feet to the left, takes another bite.
It's constantly processing data.
Constantly. This is the nervous system of a Mrigashirsha native.
Yeah.
They're just wired for constant scanning.
So when we say they're fickle, it's not necessarily that they're flaky people. It's that their biology is screaming, is there something better over there? Is there a threat over there?
Precisely. They're searching for rasa.
Rasa. We hear that in yoga a lot. Juice, right?
Yes, juice, essence, or taste is the flavor of life. The fundamental psychological driver of a Mrigashira native is the belief that the rasa, the ultimate happiness, the nectar, is just over that next ridge.
If I just get that new job.
If I just get that new job, I'll find the rasa. If I just move to that new city, I'll find the rasa.
Which creates this perpetual motion machine.
It creates a psychological inertia. The texts call this star tamazic, which usually means dark or lethargic, but here it means they're stuck in a loop. They're stuck in the I can't get no satisfaction loop.
That connects back to the split nature we touched on in the intro. You mentioned this star bridges, Taurus and Gemini. Those feel like very different energies.
They are.
Taurus is slow, earthy, stubborn. Gemini's fast, airy, chatty. How does one person hold both?
Well, that's the magic of the bridging nakshatra. Mrigashira is the transition point. If your moon or ascendant falls in the first half the Taurus side, you are searching for rasa through Venusian means.
Venus is beauty, luxury, comfort.
Exactly. So the search here is tactile. These natives are the weavers of reality. They are obsessed with texture, scent, comfort, and aesthetics.
So they're not just buying a sofa because they need to sit down.
No. They're hunting for the perfect sofa that creates the perfect feeling in the room. They want to make their material life a piece of art.
So it's material search, but an artistic one. Beautiful cloth, as the texts say.
Yes. But as the constellation shifts into the Gemini sector, the last 2 quarters, Mercury takes the wheel, the earth element drops away.
Yeah.
Now, the deer isn't sniffing for the sweetest grass. It's sniffing for the sweetest idea.
This is where we get the writers and the satirists you mentioned.
Precisely. The search becomes intellectualized. These are the people who read 3 books a week or who fall down Wikipedia rabbit holes until 4 in the morning.
Right.
They collect facts, like the Taurus side collects fabrics. They are the jack of all trades. But notice the common thread. Whether it's the perfect sofa or the perfect theory, the underlying anxiety is the same.
I don't have it yet. I need to go find it.
Correct. The cup feels empty, even if it's half full.
This brings me to something that really surprised me in the notes.
Mm-hmm.
We have Venus ruling the first half, Mercury ruling the second. But the planetary ruler of the nakshatra itself, the boss of the whole star, is Mars.
Yes.
Mars, the god of war.
Yeah.
That feels so aggressive for a gentle deer.
It seems like a massive contradiction, doesn't it? You have this doe-eyed, fragile symbol, but the engine under the hood is pure fire.
Right.
But think about the physics of searching. To hunt, to roam, to constantly investigate, that requires energy. It requires drive. Mars provides the impulse.
So Mars is the battery pack.
Mars is the desire principle. Without Mars, the deer would just sleep under a tree and be eaten by a tiger. Mars says, I want... In Mrigashira, that Martian fire isn't used for conquest on a battlefield in the bloody sense. It's used for investigation.
So it makes them incredible researchers.
Incredible. They will debate you not because they want to destroy you, but because the Martian energy demands they conquer the intellectual territory.
That explains the argumentative streak. I've known a few people with this placement, and they do love a good debate. It's almost like sport for them.
It is sport. Mars loves a challenge. But this leads us into the darker waters of the star. Mars is a warrior, and warriors are paranoid. They have to be. If you combine the fragility of a prey animal with the aggression of a warrior, you get a personality that is highly suspicious.
The hunted aspect.
Yes, they sense danger from every corner. In relationships, this is fascinating and troublesome. The texts are quite explicit about marital disharmony being a common theme here.
And this connects to the serpent symbol we mentioned earlier, the female snake.
The serpent represents the hidden nature. The deer is the public, face-charming, innocent, wide-eyed. Everyone loves the deer. But the private nature can be like the serpent, seductive, hypnotic, but also slippery.
And in relationships, the wandering eye is a real issue.
It is.
Is it that they are unfaithful or just easily bored?
It's the boredom, fueled by the search for rasa. The moment a relationship becomes static or predictable, the Mars instinct kicks in. Is there better excitement elsewhere? But here is the twist. Because they are constantly scanning for options, they assume their partner is doing the same.
Oh, they project their own restlessness onto the other person.
Exactly. They can be incredibly jealous and possessive, checking the partner's phone, analyzing their tone of voice. They're sniffing for betrayal just like the deer sniffs for a predator. It can be exhausting for the partner.
And tragic for the native, really.
Yeah.
To be unable to trust.
It creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. The suspicion creates distance, which then leads to the very breakdown they feared.
This leads us perfectly into the mythology because the stories really highlight this theme of desire, illusion, and consequence. We talked about the golden deer, but I want to go deeper into the Soma myth because that feels like a cosmic soap opera.
It really is. It's one of the foundational scandals of Vedic mythology. The presiding deity of Mrigashirsha is Soma, the moon god. Soma represents the nectar of immortality, the Amrita, but also the mind and emotions.
Okay, so the moon god is in charge.
And the story goes that Soma became obsessed with Tara. Tara was the wife of Brihaspati, or Jupiter, the guru of the gods.
Wait, so the moon steals the guru's wife. That's bold.
It's incredibly bold. Jupiter represents wisdom, dharma, and social order. The moon represents emotion, desire, and delight. So, emotion abducted wisdom's wife. It caused a massive war in the heavens.
Wow.
The gods took sides. It was chaos.
It sounds like the plot of a blockbuster movie. But what's the deeper meaning here?
The result of this illicit affair was a child, Buddha, or Mercury, the planet of intellect.
That is profound. Out of chaos comes intellect.
It suggests that high intelligence, the analytical Mercury capacity, is born from the friction between emotion and wisdom. It implies that the Mrigashirsha native needs these crises. They need the chase, the mistake, and the scandal to birth their intelligence.
So the restlessness isn't a mistake. It's a feature of the system.
It is the mechanism of their growth. Just as the golden deer led Rama into a crisis that eventually destroyed the demon king Ravana, the chases of Mrigashirsha often lead to necessary transformations. But it's a hard road.
Let's go back to that golden deer story for a second, because you mentioned it's the great trap.
Right. The golden deer in the Ramayana was a demon named Maricha. He disguised himself to lure Sita. Sita, who usually had perfect discernment, was enchanted by the shimmering gold skin of the deer. She insisted Rama catch it for her.
And the moment Rama left to chase the deer, the protection was broken.
Precisely. The lesson is clear. When we chase the illusion of external perfection, we leave our center. We leave our protection. The Mrigashirsha native spends so much life energy running after things that look like gold, only to find out it was just a trick of the light.
A person in a desert chasing one mirage after the other. That's the quote from the source material. That sounds incredibly draining.
It leads to nervous exhaustion. This nakshatra is very prone to burnout. The adrenal glands, ruled by Mars, get depleted by the constant low-level anxiety of the search. They are running on fumes, chasing a Venusian mirage with a Martian engine.
So if you're listening to this and thinking, oh my God, that's me, I'm the deer, I'm exhausted, what is the way out? How do you heal? You mentioned weaving earlier.
Yes, the source texts mention the symbolism of extension above and weaving below. This is the antidote to the scattered energy of the deer.
Unpack that for us. What does weaving have to do with hunting?
Think of the deer's path. It's zigzag, random, scattered. Now think of weaving. You take disparate threads, loose, chaotic strings, and you bind them together into a structure. You create tension and order.
Oh.
The healing for Mrigashirsha is to stop running and start weaving their experiences into a coherent whole.
So instead of just having a collection of random hobbies and relationships, you integrate them.
Exactly. It's about integration. It's about finding the connection between your love of gardening and your love of poetry. It's about seeing that the rasa you were looking for in the new job is actually the same rasa you find in a cup of tea if you just sit still enough to taste it.
That brings us to Prītana Śakti.
The power to give fulfillment. It's ironic, isn't it? The star that is most famous for being dissatisfied holds the power of fulfillment.
That is a paradox.
It's the hero's journey of this star. They have to exhaust the search outside to realize the fulfillment is inside. The deer must eventually stop running. In the sky, the next nakshatra is Ardra, which is the storm. Mrigashirsha is the search that eventually leads to the storm of transformation.
The nectar is internal.
The soma is within. The eyes, which this star rules, must turn away from the horizon and look into the self. When the Martian fire of desire is turned inward, it becomes the burning desire for liberation, for moksha. Then the searcher becomes the seeker.
The distinction searcher versus seeker is key.
Yes, a searcher is a tourist. They consume experiences. They want the selfie with the monument to prove they were there. A seeker is a pilgrim. They walk the path not to see something, but to be someone, to be changed by the journey.
I love that. And it seems like rest is a big part of this prescription.
Essential. The nervous system of a Mrigashirsha native is like a high-tension wire. They need to physically stop, walk in nature, not to hike to the top of the mountain to conquer it, but just to be in the forest. To be the deer that is resting, not the deer that is hunted.
There was one other myth in the notes about Parvati and Shiva. I think this really nails the concept of stopping.
Ah, yes. Parvati, the great goddess, desired Shiva as her husband, but Shiva is an ascetic. He ignores the world. Parvati didn't chase him. She didn't run around the Himalayas trying to find him.
What did you do?
She went into the mountains, sat down, and performed intense penance. She became absolutely still. She generated so much internal heat, so much tapas, that Shiva was drawn to her.
Wow. That flips the whole deer archetype on its head.
It fulfills it. She stopped running. She became the stillness, and the object of her desire came to her. That is the ultimate secret of Mrigashira. What you are searching for is seeking you. You just have to stand still long enough for it to find you.
That gives me chills. It's such a powerful reversal.
It is. The constant movement of the deer vibrates the web of reality, making it hard for things to settle. When the deer stops, the web settles, and the pattern, the woven tapestry, becomes visible.
It strikes me that we're living in a very Mrigashira age. We have the information of Mercury, the desire of Venus, and the engine of Mars driving us to consume. But we lack the satisfaction.
We are collectively hallucinating golden deers everywhere. We swipe for the next partner, scroll for the next dopamine hit. We are all overstimulated deer. The lesson of this star is crucial for the 21st century. Stop chasing the mirage. Sit down. Weave what you have already gathered.
So if we look at the bigger picture, Mrigashira is teaching us about the transition from material value to spiritual value.
It is the bridge. Remember, it starts in Taurus Earth, material, value. It ends in Gemini Air, mind, intellect. It's the process of sublimating the material into the mental and eventually into the spiritual. It is the alchemical process of turning the golden deer of desire into the golden light of wisdom.
But you have to catch the deer first to realize it's a demon.
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes we have to get what we want to realize it wasn't what we needed. That is the hard lesson of Mrigashira.
So, to recap for our listener, Mrigashira is the brilliant, artistic, curious searcher. It bridges the comfort of Taurus and the wit of Gemini. But it risks exhaustion by chasing illusions. Its superpower is curiosity, but its kryptonite is dissatisfaction.
And its healing is Prītana Śakti fulfillment through turning inward and weaving the scattered threads of life into a whole.
A profound lesson for all of us in this high-speed world.
Indeed. We must move from being tourists to being pilgrims.
That is going to stick with me. From a tourist in life to a pilgrim.
Well put. They must learn that the Prītana Śakti, the power of fulfillment, comes from weaving their own life tapestry, not from hunting for it in the forest.
A beautiful thought to finish on. The cup is empty, but the search for meaning continues. Hopefully a bit more inward now.
Indeed. Until next time.